So we're talking about grow today. And the one thing I want to say before we jump into the idea of growth or spiritual growth or how I grow or how you grow is I don't like anybody telling me that I need to grow. I don't like anybody telling me how to grow. So if you're sitting here and you're feeling that, I feel you, right? And I just want to be also clear, though, it'd be pretty foolish of me to say that I don't need growth. I wouldn't be very qualified as a pastor if all of a sudden I stood up here and I thought, man, I have it all figured out, and now I am just going to share it with these wonderful people and point out to them all of the things that they need to figure out, because I clearly have it all figured out. As you can tell by the way I dress every Sunday morning, there's not a whole lot that I have figured out. You see, well, I don't like anybody telling me that I need to grow or how to grow. I also admit very readily that I need growth. I need growth as a parent. I need growth as a husband. I need growth as a pastor. I need growth in my personal life. I mean, in fact, if I were to step back from my life and to look at the journey I've been on, I can say, wow, I've kind of grown a lot. And also, wow, I got a long way to go. And I think an honest estimation in anyone's life would be able to admit something probably very similar to what I just admitted to you. That one, we don't really like people telling us what to do, ever. But we also, sometimes we get lost on the journey, and we all need growth. There's all areas, and I know your areas are smaller than my areas, but we all have areas we need to grow in. As we're talking about, we talked about come last week. Just come to Jesus, whoever you are, however, just come. It doesn't matter, just come. Come as you are. And then what we also say as a church is, but don't stay that way. Because everybody has areas in their life they can grow in. Me, you, your neighbor, quite clearly your neighbor, right? We all have areas we can grow in. I think about the path of the disciples when I think about growth. I mean, here were these guys, they just were doing their thing, going about their life, and they probably had their goals and their plans and their aspirations all figured out, and then all of a sudden this thing starts with Jesus, and their life would take an unimaginable journey, an unimaginable trip towards something that, while it would be difficult at times, it would be far greater than anything they would have planned themselves, anything they could have thought. In fact, if they thought, I want to grow up and have this amount of influence, well, they met Jesus, and that changed the game. And here we have the disciples who have influenced all of us. And thousands of years later, every part of the world influenced through these people and the mission that Jesus gave them. But it wasn't always that way. I mean, there was a time where they were just sitting on a beach fishing. And that sounds kind of awesome, doesn't it? I mean, they used nets and they cast their nets out, and that's kind of lame. It's not much of a challenge. You know, real fishermen use fly rods, and I like to fly fish. Jesus shows up and offers them, while they're fishing one day, I'm going to read it, a crazy invitation to an unimaginable future that was far better than they ever could have planned. And I don't want you to miss this. When we're talking about grow, what we're talking about is an invitation that Jesus extends to you just as he extended to the disciples. And it's an invitation to an unimaginable future that is far better than anything you have planned. I know you got some good plans. You've talked to me about some of your plans. They're pretty wicked, awesome plans, if I could just revert to being a New England person for a second. We talk about fishing, and all of a sudden, I'm talking like I'm in Maine. Wicked. The invitation's the same. It's an invitation to you to grow in Him to a future that is unimaginable. In fact, in John 10, it says that He has come that you may have life and have it to the full, that you can have an abundant life. And in other passages, He talks about how He is going to fill us with streams of living water. And do you know what that living water is going to do? It's going to erupt out of us and overflow into every area of our life. You see, when it comes to Jesus, His plan for you is better and it's fuller and it's more complete and it has the things you're looking for and it's far better than you ever could have imagined. He didn't come and interrupt your life to ruin it. He came and interrupted your life and your plans to give you something far better, something you weren't even thinking about. And He will grow you on that journey. But the invitation is the same as the disciples. It goes down in Matthew, and this is like one sentence, and a crazy sentence to begin with. And maybe you've heard this sentence before, but if you haven't heard this sentence before, it's going to be like, what? It sounds really, really weird at the end of it. It was something that surely these fishermen, they would have understood the language, but they definitely would not have understood the picture. And Jesus, He shows up and He's walking by the Sea of Galilee. And if you're following along, I'm in Matthew chapter 4 and verse 17. Nope, not there. Verse 18. Sometimes I'm just funny when I mess stuff up, I guess. I don't have to plan jokes. I just have to misread stuff. It says, while walking by the Sea of Galilee, He saw two brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And He said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And immediately they left their nets and followed Him. And then going on from there, He saw two other brothers, James and John, his brother, in the boat with Zebedee, their father, mending their nets. And He called them. And immediately they left their boat and their father and followed Him. Doesn't that verse sound crazy? He shows up and He interrupts their life and He says, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. Period. End of inspirational speech. And they all drop the net and follow Him. They might not have had a clear picture of what their future would entail, but they had met in the face of Jesus a God who loves them and called them to something greater than they could imagine or understand. And if you haven't met the God who loves you and who is calling you to something greater than you could have imagined, then we're going to introduce you to Him. This call, it was an interruption. You know, sometimes we plan and we think these interruptions are just such a pain in the butt. Can I say that? I don't know, but I just did, so too bad. We're just going and we make our plans and we figure it out and we dream our dreams, and then all of a sudden there's an interruption to our plan and it throws us, and we spend time after time after time trying to figure out the adjustments, what we did wrong, how can we course correct, how can we get on track, and we just fight. We fight the interruptions in life. And I know that some interruptions are just little, like we get annoyed by the smallest of interruptions. Somebody parks in our parking space, or it cuts us off, or doesn't pull out and peel their tires right when it turns green, and we view that as an interruption. But sometimes life is throwing us bigger interruptions. Big interruptions that we didn't plan for, even hurtful interruptions. And we fight the interruptions, and we fight the interruptions when instead of fighting the interruptions, we should be just seeking to follow. You see, the interruptions in your life are incredible opportunities. And you need to start to embrace them as opportunities for growth, as opportunities to course correct and check where you've been going and why you've been going there. They're opportunities for us to experience something better. And so, instead of fighting the interruption, these disciples, they just follow God through it. They follow God through it, even though they didn't have all the answers. And sometimes, I know this is heavy because you've had some really heavy interruptions. Sometimes you just got to follow God through the interruption and seek and trust that He has something better than you could imagine. Seek and trust that maybe this is an opportunity for new growth and a new experience for something better. And if you're dealing with interruptions, it's time to just embrace them. Say, God, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand what you're calling me to. I can't even see the whole picture, but I'm going to follow you through the interruption. Man, could you imagine how that would change your perspective if every time an interruption came to your plan, instead of freaking out and panicking, instead of the anxiety that kept you up every night until wee hours of the morning? Can you imagine if every time an interruption came into your life, you were like, all right, I can do this because God's got me and I'm just going to follow Him. I'm just going to take it a day at a time, a step at a time. And maybe if you're here and you're dealing with an interruption, that's the only thing for you right now. It's just take it a day at a time and follow God through the interruption. He shows up and he says, man, follow me. As some of us, we wouldn't have even been paying attention. We'd have just kept fishing. We can get so stuck in our routines that we miss the interruptions, that we miss the message, the direction God's giving us. And some of us, maybe we could use an interruption or two because we have settled in. But in settling in, we've become stagnant. And becoming stagnant, well, we're just not growing. And we're missing out on the future God has for us. He comes and he just says, follow me, follow me. It's such a simple call. Do you get it? Like, it's just follow me. I love that Jesus just makes this such a simple call. It was a simple start to their journey that would turn into a daily direction. Yeah? Like a simple start that turns into a daily direction. That's all I want for my life. That's all I want for us. Like, let's just have a simple start with Jesus. Let's just have Him meet us right where we're at. And let's just have that simple start turn into a daily direction where instead of twice a year, I'm ready to do what God wants me to do. It's like once a week. And then instead of once a week, I'm seeking to follow Him like 3 times a week. And then instead of 3 times a week, then all of a sudden He becomes, I give Him my heart and my attention every day, because what starts so simple and a call to follow can turn into a daily direction. And I don't just need to start and stop one more thing in my life. How many of you are like feeling me on that? Like you're the king of start and stop. Like you're going to fix that car, and you buy one tire and then you sits in the garage for 7 years. I have a boat trailer I've been going to sell for like 8 years, sitting in my yard, still sitting there. And every year I'm going to sell it. Like we start things and we stop things so much. And what I want to grow. I want to grow, and I don't want to just start and stop with Jesus. I want to start and have it become a daily direction. And that's what this was for the disciples, but it started so simple. Just follow me. It wasn't, hey, read this manual and then follow me. It wasn't dress like this. Here's the dress code for the next 6 years of your life. Follow me. Well, we have to get that tattoo removed, but then follow me. Maybe you should quit smoking first and then follow me. It wasn't, do you get that? Like, come on. Some of you have been burned by the message that's gotten twisted up. Some churches have burned you. Some churches have burned you because instead of just saying follow Jesus, they handed you a manual and they said, hey, here's the rule book, here's the list of do's and don'ts, dress up, button your shirt, don't wear sneakers to preach, tie your shoes, get a haircut, clean up your language, stop smoking, get yourself together, and then follow Jesus. I'm so glad He shows up to the disciples and He doesn't give them a moral checklist. He doesn't ask them 1,000 questions. There's no vetting system. There was no dress code. There was no rule book. Jesus is like, follow me and I'll make you. Did you catch it? Follow me, I'll make you. You see, God's got this. And He will make you into the person He wants you to be, into the person you need to be, into the person one day you will be so glad that you have become. He'll get you there. You just have to be willing to follow. It's so simple. And if you have been burnt by church or by people or by Christians that came at you with the dress code, I'm sorry. Clearly, we don't have a dress code. If you have been handed the rule book and they said you have to clean your life up before you start to follow Jesus, I'm sorry. If they've twisted the message and they've made you learn the manuscript, if they've made you pay the fee before you could follow Him, if they've tried to make you fit in or look like that person or look like that person or look like that person and then follow, I'm sorry. It's not Jesus. Jesus just says follow. I'll get you where you need to be, where you will want to be. Just follow. Just whoever you are, whatever you look like. There's no rule book that can apply to some of you. I didn't mean to look right at you when I said that. I don't know why, I just stopped right there. Looking very good today. There's no, listen, it's just follow. And if you have been burnt because somebody's given you some other message, the chances are you've checked out. And if you checked out, then it's really hard for you to be here this morning. It's really hard for you to go to church because somewhere along the line, someone made you feel like you weren't good enough for God. Somewhere along the line, someone made you feel like your past is too dirty for God. Somewhere along the line, someone wounded you in the name of Jesus, and that's not Jesus. Just follow. Wherever you are, whatever you got going on, whatever net, fly rod, spinning reel, please don't use spinning reels, but whatever you use, whatever you're using, wherever you're using it, whatever you're doing, this interruption is one you want to get a hold of. It's one you want to listen to. It's one you want to be receptive to. Just follow Him. He will make you into everything you want to be, everything you need to be. He will get you to the unimaginable future that will be so much better than your own plans. He comes in and he says, just follow me, I will make you. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, Paul's talking about this, and it's not 13, it's 3. 1 Corinthians, it's 3. Did I say 13? I didn't say 13. 3. In verse 5, Paul says this. He says, what then is Apollos? That's a dude, not a planet. Like, who's this guy? Who is he? And then he turns it on himself. He says, what is Paul? Like, it's like, this guy, yeah, he's a great church. Apollos is a great church leader, a great shepherd, a great caretaker of people. He's just loving people towards Apollos. He says, who's Apollos and who's Paul? Who am I? The guy who wrote most of these books. Who am I? He said, just servants. We're just servants through whom you believed, as the Lord has assigned to each. In other words, like it doesn't matter who Josh is. It doesn't matter who Scott is. It doesn't matter who Randy is. We are just people who are serving you because God's called us to on our journey, because He's caused us to care and to love you, but it doesn't really matter who I am. And this is why. He says, I planted the seed. Apollos watered it. Like somebody shared the good news with you. Somebody else came along and helped you understand it and apply it and see it for the beautiful picture it is of who God is and who you are in Christ. Somebody did that, but only God gives growth. No, you see, God grows you. We don't grow you. The church doesn't grow you. People don't grow you. Your neighbor doesn't grow you. Your parents don't grow you. Your grandparents, though they try really hard, they don't grow you, right? Like, God is the one. And it's good. It's good because I'd mess it up. Because you need something different than I need. Because your journey is going to look a whole lot different than my journey. And in the church world, we look at other people and we think their journey has to, like your journey has to look like mine or it's not right? Like that's how we think. But it's not true. You see, God knows exactly what you need when you need it. He is going to grow you. He's going to grow you. I will make you, Jesus said. It says, I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but only God. See, God is everything. He gives us growth. He who plants and he who waters are one, and each will receive his wages according to his labor. It's really good work. It's really important to plant seeds. It's really important to water. It's really good work, but God is the one who grows people. And thank goodness, because I preach every Sunday, and if I was responsible for your growth, clearly there would be a massive gap in your journey. But God's responsible for your growth. He is the one who will grow you. And then it says this in 9, for we are God's fellow workers. You are God's field, God's building. Like God is going to do the work. What we do is important. In fact, it's so important that God says, hey, you're going to get your reward like in heaven. Doesn't matter who you are or who does it down here. Doesn't matter which church it happens in, where it grows, what conversation starts it, what conversation turns the light bulb on, flicks the switch. What it doesn't matter. It's really good, but it doesn't matter because God is the one. He's going to grow you the way He knows fit to grow you. He's going to grow me the way He knows fit. Our job is to tend to the soil. Your job for your life is to tend to the soil of the field. Our job as a church is to tend to the soil. And the soil is the heart. You see, it's the heart that the unimaginable life, it grows from. It's the heart from which a full life, an overflowing life, an exciting life, it's from the heart that grows. Luke chapter 6, it says this. You with me? You hanging here? It says this. Don't judge me, I fold pages so I can flip fast. It says this, for no good tree bears bad fruit, nor again does bad tree bear good fruit. Each tree is known by its own fruit, for figs are not gathered from thorn bushes, nor are grapes picked from a bramble bush. And then it says this, because I don't know what a bramble bush is, so it's really clear now if you're like, wow, he just lost us all. It says this in 45. You ready? You ready for this? The good person out of the good treasure of his heart produces good. And the evil person out of the evil treasures produces evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaks. You see, the soil is the heart. And your job is just to have a willing heart to let God grow you. If you want to, and you don't have to, no pressure. You can decide when you're ready and willing, but I would encourage you that what's ahead for you, if you are willing to say, all right, God, do your thing in my life, what's ahead for you is far better than anything you could have ever imagined. When you come to the moment where you're like, I don't want to just start and stop with you. I want to grow into a daily rhythm and routine and perspective with you. What He has for you is so much better, so I would implore you to be willing, but it's your call. your time. No pressure. When you're ready, all you have to do is be willing to let God have your heart. And He will grow something amazing out of it for you. What we're going to do is we're just going to tend to the soil. How's your soil? That's a question I never thought I'd ask in church. It's your soil. Jesus told this parable in Matthew 13. It was one of those parables that He tells and then explains right away. And we don't have a ton of time, so I'm just going to paraphrase it for you today. He's walking along, and he talks, and he's walking by the sea, and there would have been fields in the short distance, not in the long distance. There would have just been fields around. So there would have been, people knew the farming game, right? Like it was right there. It would have been an illustration that would have been right there. It would have been like, hey, and so he's talking about this, and he says in verse 3, he says, and he told them many things in parables, saying, a sower went out to sow, and he sowed, and some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came along and developed them. And everybody's like, that's not good. Like, that's not good. And then it says other seeds fell on the rocky ground where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched. And everybody's like, yeah, and no, that's not good. That's not good either. This guy's wasting a lot of seed. It's scorched. They had no root. They withered away. And in verse 7, seeds fell among the thorns. And you're like, well, they got a shot. And the thorns grew up and choked them out. What a bummer of a parable. So far, we're 0 for 3. It's okay. We're Phillies fans, so we're used to it. Surprised no Mets people are taunting me. I know you're out there. I know. See? Other seeds fell among the, and then other seeds, listen, then number 4, bat and cleanup. Other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain. Some 100-fold, and some 60, and some 30. He who has an ear, let him hear. And everybody's like, oh, cool story. What in the world does it mean, though? Like, I don't get it. And the disciples are like, seriously, Jesus? Can we I thought this, you need to work on your preaching. Like, let's be a little less abstract. Less abstract. Maybe speak a little slower. Throw a funny story about some kid somewhere, or make fun of the way you dress. Maybe that'll draw them in. Like, Jesus, just work on your preaching. I don't understand why you tell them. And so he explains it to them in verse 18. He's like, listen, all right, listen. Here's the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word, that's a seed. It's the word of God. Here's the word of the kingdom and doesn't understand it. The evil one comes and snatches it away. It's not good. If the soil is the heart, then this heart, it doesn't care and it doesn't want to care. This heart is hard and it's diverted and it doesn't want anything to do with it. And what happens is the word falls on a heart that is hardened by whatever it's hardened with, life or disappointment or anger or bitter, whatever hardened that heart, the seed, the word, it hits it and it sits there, and then Satan, he just snatches it away because he doesn't want a hard heart to turn to Jesus and experience the hope they've been missing all along. He goes on and he says, this is the next one that comes, this is what was sown along the path. Sorry, I can't read either. As for what was sown on the rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. And everybody's like, that's good. Yet he has no root in himself, but he endures for a while. And when tribulations or persecution arises on account of the word, immediately he falls away. Like this soil, it looks good from the beginning. Like, this is like, yeah, church is rad. Whoa, cool video. Like, I'm looking for a Band-Aid for my life. I just want a quick fix. I just want something to make me feel better right now. I don't really want to buy the whole store. Can I just buy a Band-Aid? I don't really want healing. I just want to feel a little better today. And this heart, it approaches the Word and what God has for us as if it's just like a Band-Aid and a quick fix, but it doesn't work that way. It's so much more and it's so much better than just a Band-Aid. You see, if you're looking for a Band-Aid, I got news for you. Life gets hard. There's no Band-Aids to cover the difficulty and the tribulation and the pain you experience in life. Drugs, not a good Band-Aid. Alcohol, not a good Band-Aid. Sex, not a good Band-Aid. Purpose and succeeding at business, not a good Band-Aid. Money, not a good Band-Aid, because the trouble's gonna come and there is no Band-Aid big enough. But if you're healed on the inside, it may get a little bumped. You may get a little bruised, but you're good. See, there's no Band-Aid. And some people, their heart, where's your heart? Is it hard? Have you been wounded? Have you been shut God off and you're just here for the so-so coffee? It's good. It's good coffee. It's good coffee. Where's your heart? Are you just looking for a Band-Aid? Because I don't have Band-Aids for you, but if you want healing, this has got tons. And then there's the third group. It says, as for what was sown among the thorns, this is one who hears the word, but the cares of the world. Now, that's really important to understand what it means by cares of the world, and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. The world is not people you know. The world, when it's talking about the world in Scripture, it's talking about a system apart from God's system. It's talking about an approach to life apart from God's approach to life. It's talking about priorities that are apart from God's priorities. It's about a way of doing things that's different than God's way of doing things. And so this soil, they're like, yeah, I need that. But somewhere along the line, they get distracted and they fall back into their old way of doing things. Maybe I just need to get more money or be more successful or find the right relationship, and that stuff will get in order, and then this God thing will supplement that, and I'll be okay. And so quickly we can shift back into thinking the way the other systems and the other priorities pull us. This soil gets choked out by an approach to life that is different than God's and far subpar. And then there was the fourth soil. As for what was sown on the good soil, this is one who hears the word and understands it. You catch this heart, it's receptive. It's receptive. And the receptive heart bears so much fruit, it's hard to calculate. It spills out into this field, it spills out into that field, it spills into this church, it spills into that church, it spills into that house, and then down the street in that house. It just overflows with life and fruit is good. Fruit just everywhere. Let's throw a fruit party because this heart was just one thing: receptive to the word God has for them and wanting to understand it. Where's your heart? You see, the heart is the soil from which an unimaginable and far better life than you ever could have comprehended or planned. The soil is the heart from which God will grow it. Are you? It's like, I don't want anything to do with it right now. Or I'm looking for a Band-Aid, a quick fix. Nothing difficult, just a quick fix. Or you just pulled back into the old way of thinking. Or are you receptive? No matter who you are, no matter where you're at, there's no one that God can't grow from. Just receive it. You see, we tend to the soil. It's your job to take account of your heart and to know where your heart is and to say, you know what, God, I'm not where I should be. I'm just going to be willing. I'm just going to be willing to follow and let you grow me. I'm going to have that receptive heart, that good soil. I'm going to be willing, and God will grow you. It's our job as a church to throw some fertilizer on you. They've been doing a lot of that around here. Woo! Ours isn't going to stink, though. It's going to be really good. You see, the best fertilizer for soil, the best fertilizer for the heart. The best way we can tend to the soil is with love and truth. In Ephesians chapter something or other, but don't worry because I have the page folded. So there it is. Ephesians chapter 3, it says this. Now to him, nope, that's not it. It's, shoot. Here we go, found it. Chapter 4, verse 13. Until we attain to the unity of the faith and the knowledge of the Son of God. What Paul is talking to a church here is he's saying, until we attain growth, until God gets us where we need to be, until we mature into manhood and womanhood and where we should be at, until the fullness, we get to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, until we grow so much that we are like Christ, so that we may no longer be children that are tossed to and fro by the waves and carried about by every wind of doctrine, by human cunning, by craftiness and deceitful schemes, until we are people who are so solid that no one can throw us off. Nothing can throw us off the journey we're on with God. We're so solid. Until then, rather, speaking the truth in love. You can't disconnect one. You can't say, I'm going to give you truth and not give you love. Some of you have been burned by that. See, you gotta give love. And love dictates how you communicate truth. Until we speak truth in love, we are to grow up in every way to him who is Christ. Truth and love, you see, that's what we tend to the soil. And the best way to love people, this is going to be a shocker for you, the best way to share truth with people is in the context of relationships. And I know we run around, and I just want to say that this is a great tool. Mine buzzes way too much. It's not the context of relationship. This is not the context of relationship. Relationship that shares truth and love, you see, it's got to be caring. It's got to be close. And so how as a church can we create and foster and fertilize good soil so that when you are ready and willing to grow, you have the opportunity to experience the truth you need, the exciting truth you need, and the love you need wherever you're at in the context of relationship. It's really hard in a world that is going, busy. It's really hard. But we are going to provide you with the context to grow as you are ready. And we're going to do that with groups. And so we say, come to Jesus, whoever you are, come to worship and learn about Jesus and grow in a group. We have 5 kinds of groups that we're going to offer this next year. We're going to start one in January this summer, June 7th, and then we're going to kick them all off in the fall. And there's 5 kinds of groups that every group here is going to fit into the purposes of these 5 kinds of groups. The first group are care groups. Care groups are the support you need for the life you're dealing with right now, right? Like you're dealing with death, we're going to provide care groups that'll help you deal and grieve. If you're dealing with some health issues, we're going to provide care groups to help with those things. Care groups are the support you need for right now in life. The next kind of groups we're going to provide are no groups, because it's really important to know who you're following. How many of you have been following the wrong person? You didn't know who it was, but they had a car similar to the one you were supposed to be following, and you end up in Shamokin or Minersville. That's why it's important to have the sticker on the back. It's like, no groups are so that we can know who we're following. We're going to have no groups at every level. So you just go I don't know anything. We're going to have an awesome group for no. You're like, I know some stuff. I want to know more. We're going to have a group for that. If you're like a crazy theologically minded person, you're like, I want to tear this up and know everything. We're going to have a group, no group for that. We're going to have no groups from beginning to end. It's just going to be great. And so no groups. Care groups, no groups, equip groups. We're going to have equip groups to help you learn how to help other people. How do you share with your friends that's struggling with addiction? How do How do you serve in the community? How do you share your story to help other people learn their stories and meet Christ? We're going to have equip groups. There's 3, right? Care, know, equip, and go groups. And go groups will be teams of people that are designed to serve you all and serve our community. And then the 5th kind of group is probably the most important kind of group. If you've never experienced a group, when these launch, you need to go to one because this isn't the context of relationships. And life groups are where you can get connected and cared for, where you can get known. And I would encourage you, as these 5 groups roll out this summer, to get on the list right away and experience truth and love in the context of relationship. Surround yourself with people that are for you, that love you, that will help support you, that will care for you, and that will know you, because we need relationships to grow.